Welcome to the Maasto Fitness podcast. Today, we are talking all about beating the heat, smart training, fueling, and nutrition for hot races. So, I am Coach Tyler. I like to keep these podcasts short and to the point, focusing on the things you can do off the bike to race faster and safer on the bike. At Maasto Fitness, we work with racers remotely to build training that fits into their life and gives them the tools they need to race faster and safer on race day. And those athletes don't have a ton of time to train off the bike or even really on the bike. So, I like to keep the training efficient to the point and working the muscles and cardiovascular system the way it needs to be worked to have them at their best on race day. These podcasts are the same. I like to remove the fluff, get you the facts you need to know, and get in and out in about 10 minutes. So let's go ahead and dive into it. So first, I want to say we're here in late July 2025, going into August now. And I just start to get a lot of questions this time of year of different ways racers can battle the heat, deal with the heat, best ways to combat it. And I've got tidbits in a whole bunch of podcasts, but I figure today's the perfect time for me to just kind of take the best tips and information and compile it into one podcast. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So first, heat isn't just about the weather. It doesn't just feel harder, it actually is harder. And so there's a couple of changes with your body and the way we deal with things. So first, we have a higher heart rate at the same effort speed. Oftentimes, our pace will go down a little bit. So, despite us working harder, we're actually going a little slower. Our perceived effort skyrockets. So, it feels substantially harder in really hot conditions. And then your gut has a harder time absorbing fuel, which is a big one because essentially we're working harder. We're using more energy and our bodies to absorb less. So, special factors definitely need to be considered when you're racing in hot conditions. So basically, if you're wondering sometimes why you're going slower, whether it's on the bike or off the bike on really hot days, it's not you. It's literally physiology, biology. But there are things we can do to train to combat it and to lessen that decrease in speed and raise in effort. So first, let's talk about heat adapting. First, we want to do a little bit of training in the heat during the year, not just the week of a hot race, but if we can make it work a couple times a week throughout the summer, definitely help. You always want to make sure we're not doing anything extreme, going over the top, spending long amounts of times in extreme temperatures. But just basically don't dodge warm days for training. A few sessions really help the body adapt. And there's a couple things it does. It increases plasma volume, which helps our body cool better. It increases our sweat rate, which that's how our body also cools itself, pulling moisture to the skin. That's how our body cools itself. That's what sweating is. And then it lowers our rating perceived exertion over time. So as the body adapts, we start to feel better in it and our body deals with it better. So basically, my suggestion or tip there is start with 20 to 30 minutes in nice warm temperatures. Just don't worry too much about the getting in the exact effort or wattage or pace you're looking for. Just make sure you're in it, getting it done. You're building that volume and you're staying hydrated, you know, wearing light, breathable clothes, no hero stuff, no crazy stuff like wearing a sweatshirt or a sweat or like a sweat bag or whatever those things are called. Just focus about being in the heat and training in the heat. That's going to make the biggest difference. And heat adaptation takes about 2 weeks of consistent training in the heat. So I would say if you're getting out 2 to 3 times a week, you can expect 3 or so weeks for your body to adapt and deal better with the heat. So think about that on your on the bike days and off the bike days. Getting out there is going to help, but it's not an overnight change. It's going to take a little bit. Next, hydrating before thirst. So start your week hydrated and carry that through the whole week, whether you're working inside in an office, going to school, working out in the heat, working in a shop, whatever it may be. You want to make sure you're staying hydrated. So a really simple way, really generic, is half your body weight in ounces of water per day. So you can just do that math and see what you need there. You want to make sure you're adding electrolytes to your water. So when it's really hot, adding a little bit of sports drink will help your body just kind of absorb the fluids and help the salt stick. You've probably heard me say that before if you listen to these, but those electrolytes, those minerals are what helps our body pick up and use that fluid that we're giving to it. So adding in a little bit of sports drink, you don't need to go over the top, maybe one bottle a day if you're working in hot conditions. If it's closer to a race, 1 to 2 bottles a day, 24 and 48 hours out. And then to make sure you've got a proper fluid balance, the best bet is always urine color. Basically, we're aiming for like a light amber on the scale. Clear means we're overhydrated. Really dark means we're underhydrated. So a light amber is what you're looking for. So while you're doing that kind of like really general, half your body weight in ounces, monitor your pee, and that'll tell you if you need more or less as you go throughout the day to help you kind of dial in your specific needs. And just remember, hydrating the morning of isn't going to cut it. We're talking about for race day, 24 to 48 hours out. Really in hot conditions, start thinking about 2 days out, actively hydrating. That's really going to help. Next, on hard training days or race days, pre-cool your body. So consume only cold fluids during the morning. For me, I'm like a quite the coffee drinker. I drink a lot of coffee. And when it's really hot, like this morning right now where I live, it's going to be in the 80s. This morning I had iced coffee. I didn't have hot fluid because I'm trying to combat these temps and do everything I can. And honestly, I drink coffee as soon as I get up every morning. Had to head out for a run. I'm not going to drink hot fluid, then go sweat it out in the hot temps, even though it was already in the mid 70s at 7 a.m., which for me and where we live is burning up. So I made sure to have some cold coffee before I went out. Didn't do anything to warm up my body any more than the temps were going to do. So make sure on those hard training days or race days, you're just sticking with cold fluids. It's going to just help keep you at bay before you get out there. Then you can also do things like pour cold water on your wrist or on your neck. These are psychological that can help you decrease that rating of perceived exertion or how hot it feels as you're warming up or getting ready to race. For me, I always pour a little bit of cold water on my neck, makes a big difference, and sometimes even have a cold pack on my neck as I'm waiting to start. Um, and then another thing you can do is just make sure your bottles are chilled overnight. They don't necessarily need to be icy. You don't want super cold fluids because really cold absorbs a little slower. So when you're racing, whether it's like between motos or a pit stop, you don't want something like really icy cold in terms of um, absorption. But something that's a little cooler will definitely help. And so my suggestion is always, make sure to drink some cooler fluids on when you're rehydrating between motos or at a pit stop or whatever it may be between sessions if you're training. And then for helping you cool down, like an ice pack on the neck, cold on your wrist, I think that really helps make you feel like you're cooling down. So basically, these 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 tricks help you reduce that feeling before your temp really feels hot, before you feel really warm, or if you're out there already into it, when you take those breaks, this will help you come back down quicker and feel better before you head back out for the next moto or training session. Now, fueling and nutrition tactics. So just like everything else, we want to practice everything we do. We don't want anything to be new on race day. So practice fueling in the heat, whether it's on the bike or off the bike. Make sure you're using the same fuel, the same timing. If it's a hot session, really, really think about what you're going to do and how you want to do it so you can replicate race day on a training day and make sure it works for you. We're all different. We all have different needs. You could walk through the pits at a race and get 100 different opinions on what people think you're supposed to do or what has worked for them. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to work for you or is the right thing for you. So you need to test what works for you. Um, and then make sure with that, in terms of timing and fuel, the temperature of those products as well. So a little bit of extra work, making sure you're taking the right things to the track with you, or if you got the right things on your bike with you when you're out doing your bicycle when you're doing a training session. But those little things help us on race day. And these are the things that they cost us a little bit of time, but not money. And when we're spending a lot of time traveling to these races, prepping for these races, all the things racing, these are those little things that can turn an okay day into a great day. So keep that in mind. Now, electrolytes. Let's talk about that. Electrolytes are the minerals that are in sports drinks. So sodium, potassium, calcium are the main ones that you're looking at, and sodium is the biggest player in there. And sodium loss during hot training is higher, essentially because we're sweating more, so we're losing more sodium through our sweat. And so many athletes I'll find that they're not getting in enough sodium in addition to fluid. They're doing a good job getting additional fluid in, but they're not doing the as great of work as they could getting the sodium in. So make sure you're getting in the correct sodium needs. Uh, you're looking at 500 to 1,000 milligrams of sodium per hour, depending on your sweat rate. So a little bit of math to do there. It's really individualized. I have other podcasts talking all about sodium and how to understand your needs and the ways you can get your proper needs. But basically, uh, you need to make sure you increase your sodium intake when it's hot. So spend a little bit of time digging back into previous Maasto Fitness podcasts to learn more about that. But I'll just leave it at that. You need to make sure you're getting more in. So basically, the hotter it is, the greater you want your sports drink mix, or the greater you want a product with sodium in it, like Limit, LMNT is a great one. It doesn't have a lot of calories, but it's definitely got a lot of sodium. So, as you're mixing in more sports drink, you can use some Limit as well, depending on your needs. Products like Salt Stick, there's lots of options. You just got to find one that works for you. And just above all, understand that you need to make sure you're just getting more in. Simple as that. Now, the next is we talked earlier about how on race day or warm days, rather training or racing, that your stomach decreases the amount of fluid and nutrition it can absorb. So my tip there is make sure you're having smaller, more frequent doses of hydration, nutrition. So instead of dumping a bunch into your gut at once, do smaller bits because your stomach's working at a decreased rate. Essentially, when it's hot, our heart rate increases and more blood is going to working muscles and less blood than even before is going to our stomach or our brain. So first decision making is a little bit tougher and then absorption in our stomach is slower because there's less blood there to do work because it's working at everything else trying to help keep you going. So smaller amounts in your stomach, your stomach's gonna have a little bit easier of a time digesting and getting through and getting energy to you. Um, big amounts on really hot days can lead to GI issues because your stomach just can't absorb it and it sets in there. Where if you do smaller amounts, stomach's gonna be able to take it up. So think about that when you're training, increasing the frequency, and not so much big amounts every once in a while, small amounts more frequently. And then on race day, same plan. Keep that in mind, and that'll help you keep a better energy balance and reduce the chance of GI distress. We're still looking for the same amount of calories, essentially, as we would on a cooler day. We're just doing it a little bit differently. So hot races don't have to melt your performance. You just need a plan. You need to just make sure you're training safely in the heat, you're hydrating early and often, and you're testing your fuel. So, I think for us, it's always important for us. We wear a lot of gear. We make it as breathable as we can, but you think about just like the main points, your boots, maybe you have a chest protector or some type of roost guard on and your helmet. That's already a huge decrease in the breathability compared to other endurance sports. I mean, we're endurance athletes and we're really covered where runners, cyclists, swimmers, think about what they wear and how little they're wearing and how much their body's able to cool, where we're really have got gear packed on. So we just need to make sure we respect the weather and we make the appropriate changes for those hot days because the last thing we want to do is have a meltdown on race day. So practicing a little bit in training will help a lot. And then having a plan that will work on race day will also help you have the best race you can. So that's it for me this week. If you want to try Maasto Fitness, send me a message on Instagram at Maasto Fitness, and I can hook you up with a free week of our single jump training program. You can see what it's all about. That's it for this week, guys. I'll see you next week.